There we go.
Okay.
So
All right.
everybody has to be accepted. So just press got it. It's okay. And let's go back and share. Well, I'll just get started. Basically, what we're doing here is we're talking about emergency preparedness. And in this particular session, we're going to talk about setting up systems that are self-sustaining. Not completely self-sustaining. We don't live on a farm and we're not, sort of homesteading, but there are ways in which we can set up things in our own homes that are reliable, dependable, and long-term, and with little input. There's always input, but I try to look at things that are minimal input with maximum output. And the three things that we're going to talk about, three systems that I have that I use, is growing microgreens, sprouting seeds, and having a sourdough starter in my home. And I'll talk about why each one of these are unique or special and what they can do for you. But basically, having these systems allows you to be self-reliant. When we ask ourselves what we do, in a case of an emergency, in case of there's some sort of shortage as far as, like transportation issues and stuff like that, we have at least some systems set up so that we're never in a situation where we have nothing. So it's about being responsible as being a responsible part of your community, making sure you're not overly dependent or on other people. And that may put you in a position where you can help others or even teach others. Once people see what you're doing, just like I'm doing tonight, this is something that I'm doing. Other people learn about it. And I don't mean that I always have microgreens growing, but I'm going to show you a system of where you can perpetually have microgreens growing for as long as you want. One of the things I talk about that I really think is important is about having a guild. I like that term. It's kind of like an old-fashioned term from medieval times. And the idea is being people working together in a sort of cooperation. And in this particular thing, when I wrote here, Fruit Guild, it's about, let's say, for example, my own community. I know my neighbor has an orange tree. I have apple trees and I have this kind of tree. My other neighbor on the other side has just dug out his whole yard because he has some drainage issues that he has to put. And maybe I talk to him and give him recommendations about what I think might be a great idea for him to plant. Either it's fruit trees or some other tree. And that way we can all trade back and forth. And we don't all have orange trees and we don't all have fig trees. And we can trade. I mean, if you have a fruit tree, you know what it's like. All of a sudden for 3 or 4 weeks, you have 1,000 apples, 500 plums or whatever, and a lot of it goes to waste. And this way, if you have sort of this kind of like collaboration, you are setting up systems within your community, even beyond your home, that makes you more resilient and more responsible, more cooperative, and just in general, healthier. Because we are going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about the fact that these taste better and they are more nutritious. And this way you have more nutrition and more calories and things that are really vitally essential in a stressful situation. So even though we don't, let's face it, okay? Can of tuna. Okay, we all have cans of tuna in our storage or other canned items. They're great. I don't know if I could live on this all the time. And I don't know how healthy it is to always live on canned food, especially in stressful, disaster-like situations or emergency situations. We want to have a variety. And in this particular systems do allow for for a variety of foods, as well as provide you with particular foods that are very high in nutrition. You can have frozen bread, you can have frozen bread dough, but this particular, I'm not ready yet. You went too far. This particular,
Sorry, trying to find my thing, sorry.
Well, this particular systems are highlighting foods that are highly nutritious, microgreens, sprouted seeds, and also fermented bread or sourdough bread dough, all offer a very high level of nutrition for the amount of food and energy you put into it. And it's about making your home a place of safety, refuge, health, and well-being. And it's about almost nurturing the environment of your home with food, which, I think is like a fundamental aspect of home per se. I can go to the next one. 6 of these trays, and these are kind of like heavy duty trays because I want to reuse them for years. I don't want to buy new ones. So if I pay maybe $2 or $3 more per tray,
I know that I have them for a very long time. Not the flimsy ones that break when you pick them up and they're full of soil. So there are 6 trays, a rock, kind of something as a weight, seeds, microgreen seeds, soil, and water. The only other thing that I put into it is I keep a bin to recycle the soil. A lot of people talk about replacing the soil, throwing the soil out, composting the soil. Basically, I have a garbage can that I use only for my soil from my microgreens. That soil, like, keep in mind, I have a variety of different microgreens. So these are beets and these are sunflowers. So when I put the compost or the leftover soil from my sunflower seeds in the same bin that where I had my beets, all of those roots, I am only harvesting from this above the ground and above. I'm not touching the roots here. I'm cutting that off and eating it. And what happens is the roots die back, and whatever they pulled out from the soil to make the sunflowers little buds, they also give back to the soil. So the roots sort of decompose, and different roots decompose different nutrients. And I just mix it all up after a few months, because I buy maybe 4 or 5 bags of soil. After 4 months or so, I go back, I stir it all around, and I put it in. I have seen people online literally sterilize their soil in the oven. I don't understand that. Soil is a living thing. It's giving and taking. Yes, there may be ways and times where some bacteria or something kind of stunts the growth. If that happens after maybe a couple of years, so change your soil after a couple of years. But basically, I've been using the same soil over and over again for about 6 or 7 months since I started to institute this. Now, I don't always have microgreens growing. It just depends on, like, if I have projects or something where I have to stop, I do stop. But basically, I plant a tray of microgreens every 5 days in order to have a constant supply. I need to make this tray last for about 5 days. By the time this tray is gone, this one has matured. When this one is reaching 5 days of growth, I'm going to go ahead and start a 3rd tray. And then when this 3rd tray is 5 days old, I'm going to plant this tray again with different microgreens, with all new soil as I'm flipping them around. And basically every 5 days, I'll have a new tray of microgreens. This is going to be, this is sunflower seeds, and this is going to be beets. As far as soil is concerned, there are different mediums that I've read about. Some people use hemp, some people use coconut husk, some people use paper towels, and some people, there are coconut husk. Some people use these different mediums, but they don't have any nutrients in them. You have to actually add chemical nutrients, sort of like a hydroponic system. And I'm not interested in that. I don't want to put too much of one chemical or too little of one chemical. Basically, my microgreens grow by the nutrients of the soil, the health of the seed, and photosynthesis. And so I want it as a natural and simple system as possible. So basically, I'm spending about $25 on 6 trays. I don't know, like 4 times $5 for this. So it's about $20 for the soil, the bags of soil, and the seeds. The seeds are probably the most expensive thing. These seeds I get now, be careful, because you can buy yourself organic seeds and they won't sprout, or they won't microgreen or grow. And the reason being is that they are treated with a chemical that inhibits sprouting. Why somebody would do that, I don't know, but I've contacted the companies where I tried sprouting some grains and they didn't sprout. And they told me, oh, they're not going to, even though it says organic on the package, we treat it with a chemical to inhibit its sprouting or growth. I guess they don't want it sprouting in your container. They want you to just eat it. So that's pretty weird. This is 6 days, today's the 8th. This is 7 days of growth. That's ready to harvest. I didn't even have to wait 8 days for this. I'm going to show you what I do. So these are beets. I love beets. And what's great about these beets is when you plant them, they come up this beautiful bright red stem with this bright green leaf. And you have to be pretty generous. I mean, you just want to, like, literally cover the whole thing up, most of the surface. And it's pretty simple. It's not a science. They're all probably going to sprout. And you you plant it just like this. And I'm just gonna press it a little bit, and I'm going to add water. Now, I don't recommend using water like this because I think it can disturb, see how it disturbs the soil when you pour it? I have a mister on my hose outside, and I will mist this wet. Then I'll go ahead and I'll take my potting medium. And again, this is just a mixture of whatever I have, whatever's in the store. Of course, I don't buy Miracle Grow or anything with additives in it. I buy only like organic OMRI, it's called OMRI certified organic soils and planting mediums. And I'm gonna cover that a little bit more. Then I'll mist it again to make sure it's really moist. Now for the first 3 days, what I do is I cover it. And I put it just like this, and I put something on it so the wind won't blow because I have mine outside. And this will sort of like develop or provide enough resistance to make the plant kind of say, whoa, what's going on? I'm not going to survive. I'm going to push a little harder. And it actually makes the microgreens grow faster and stronger, and the stems stronger. I mean, if you take a look at this microgreen, goodness gracious, look how beautiful that stem is. And that's only from 7 days of growth. I'm going to say that later. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to eat it because it's going to be delicious. What's really nice about the microgreens is you bite into them and you get this burst of flavor of whatever it is. It's going to taste like sunflower seeds. These are microgreens. I would say that this is about a 3-month supply. And I have about 4 different kinds of microgreens. I don't mean like this one bag is going to last me 3 months. I mean to say that with the 4 bags, they'll probably last me 3 months if I am continuously growing microgreens. So this is the most expensive part. This bag of beets or this bag of sunflower seeds, I buy them for under $10 a pound. These are pound bags. There are some microgreens that are kind of exotic and unique, different. They can go up to, I don't know, $40 a pound. So it just depends on your pocket. If I'm going to do this as a sustainable system, for me, it has to be very economical. If you'll notice the seeds here, on top, you see these little black tops. These are actually the microgreen seeds, the sesame seeds, and I'll show you a picture in a minute. Basically, you just go like this, and most of them will fall off. Occasionally, you have to pick them off, but they just come right off, and you have this beautiful, highly nutritious microgreen that you can go ahead and eat to your heart's content and try different things with it. If you grow microgreens in your home, let me just tell you, you're going to have an issue with gnats. So what I do is I take a little container, it could be something like this, or it could be a small little bowl, and I put it, I don't have microgreens in my house anymore, but I do have a lot of house plants. So what I do is, anytime you have plants in the house, you have the habit of having gnats. This is like a ½ cup of water. You start off with lukewarm water, and you put in 2 tablespoons of sugar, and you just let it dissolve. You put in 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and 6 drops of your dishwashing liquid. What happens is the gnats come because they're attracted to the sweet smell, and they get stuck by the sticky soap. And so that's how you keep your gnats kind of under control. You might want to have a few of them wherever you have plants or wherever you have the trays to reduce that whole issue. Now,
Very green like it is now. It's been outside on a sort of like a rack that I have in my sort of garden center. And this is when I took the seeds off, the cover off, and in one day it just was bursting like this. I just think it looks so awesome. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is a highlight of what that little black cap is. It's just the sunflower seed shell opening up and just letting the seed grow out from underneath it. Go to the next slide, please. And here it's starting to get a little bit thicker. It's a little bit more close-up of how the caps are on the tops of it. And again, it's going to start to green up for me. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to talk about the easiest way to give yourself high nutrients, and that is with sprouting. Sprouting, basically, the only tools you need are a jar or a plastic container. It doesn't really matter. But the jar is easy because you can buy these lids. This is a sprouting screen lid. This is made out of stainless steel. And I highly recommend that you use this type of screening. Some people want to use cheesecloth. I'm going to tell you, don't use cheesecloth, because even when you're making cheese, you need to boil your cheesecloth between uses. A lot of bacteria can be held in cheesecloth. Stainless steel is not going to be the same way. You want to keep it out of the sunlight, and you want to use moderate temperatures. You don't want it over 100 because you don't want to encourage bad bacteria. And if it's too cold, like under 70 or under 75, it's just not going to sprout because the beneficial bacteria is not stimulated in cold. It's sort of like slowed down very much. Basically, what you do is you put in a ratio of 1 part seeds, let's say it's a 1/4 cup, to 3 parts water. That's going to be a 3/4 of a cup. And you just put it in and shake it up. And then maybe you want to rinse your seeds once and then just do the same thing. It's a 1 to 3 part ratio, and it'll be sitting in that water overnight or for, I don't know, 12 to 16 hours. It doesn't really matter. It's pretty flexible. None of this is in particular science. Keep in mind, though, that you need to know what goes on in your house. I have a very hot kitchen. My kitchen yesterday, even though I had the air conditioning on, because it gets that late afternoon sun, it was between 79 degrees and 85 degrees, which can be uncomfortable. So I always have like a fan in the kitchen in case I'm working. What was the other thing? Okay, and the other thing is don't overcrowd your jar. If you have a small jar, don't put a cup worth of stuff. This is like a 1/4 cup of stuff, and it's already, this is not full. This is actually hollow inside, okay? You lie it down on its side and you kind of roll it, it sticks to the walls, and then it sprouts. Excuse me. So you want a lot of air in here, and you want to take this the second day when you rinse it out a couple of times when you pour out that water that's been sitting in for like 16 hours. And then you go ahead and you rinse it, pour all the water out and let it sit on the counter. And then in the evening, you'll do it again. And you'll do that for about 2 times a day for about 3 days. This is what happened to mine. You could take a look. Oh, I have to do it up here. What do you see? Very, very little sprouting. This tells me one of 2 things. Either my seeds are old or the temperature wasn't right in the room. So sometimes failures are really good learning experiences. Smells rancid, smells sour. My seeds are too old and it was too hot. So I have to keep that in mind. If I'm going to sprout, this kitchen is not ideal for it. And since I moved into this house, my ferments have been just terrible because of the heat of the kitchen. Also, there are different bacteria in every kitchen. Sometimes it takes years to get the bacteria just right in your kitchen. The cabinets that were in here before were like 40 years old. They've got to be letting out certain kinds of bacteria into the kitchen. And I just have to let it sort of mature and develop. And hopefully, maybe next year I'll have better luck with ferments. As a result, what I do is instead of fermenting for 4 to 10 days, like 4 days in the hot summer, up to 10 days in the cold winter days, to get that sort of like, oh, just right, and then put it in the fridge, I only ferment for a maximum of about 2 days here during the summer, and I get it into my refrigerator and I let it have a very, very slow ferment. And I have to know that in my mind of when the food will be ready, because your kitchen, the environment in your kitchen is very significant when it comes to fermenting. So what should this look like? Definitely not like this. You do not want something like this with just 1 or 2 strings, and that's that kind of sour smell. Let's go to the next screen. Oh, the costs. Basically, the cost here is, I got 4 of these lids for $10. This is quinoa seeds that I just had in my pantry. So I don't know, maybe a couple of bucks for the bag. And the jars, I don't know, they're less than $1. You keep on using them and the cost of it diminishes every time by 50%. So it's kind of minimal, very minimal cost, couple of bucks, and you've got the sprouting system. Keep in mind sprouts, when seeds are sprouted and you want to sprinkle them on your salad, or you want to have them as on the side of something or on top of your chicken dish or whatever, you're getting 30 times, at least 30 times the nutrients of an unsprouted sprout. But one thing about sprouts is that they can go rancid much more quickly and easily than microgreens. You want to really be careful with sprouts and learn and be willing to throw them out. Again, we're talking about just a few pennies here, maybe 25 cents worth of seeds. I'm going to just throw these out and start again and see if I can figure out how to tweak it so that it'll work in my kitchen. Go ahead to the next slide, please. This is the ratio. If you can see, I've got at least 2 to 3 times the amount of water in that. And it's just the same instructions. Go ahead to the next slide, please. That's what your jar should look like.
That's the patron speaking.
I beg your pardon? Oh, Richard, you need to mute yourself. Okay, let's see here. Okay, and one thing too that a lot of people ask me about, oh, you know, I do the microgreens, they're great, but after a day or so, they're rotten. And I said, well, do you put them in the refrigerator once they get to the right, like sprouting? And they go, no. I said, well, that's the trick. You can't leave them on your counter once they've completely sprouted. You've got to put them in. So if they haven't sprouted in 3 days, toss them and start over again. And in 3 days, it should look like this, and you should be able to stick it in your refrigerator. And it should be good for about a week. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Now we're going to get to bread making. I have a couple of videos I'm going to show you here to demonstrate, because it takes 3 days to do this bread. Now you're going to say to me, 3 days, Amalia, I'm not doing that. There's no way in hell I'm going to do a 3-day bread. So I'm going to tell you, you spend about I'll be generous, 5 minutes on the first day with this bread, 15 minutes to 20 minutes on the second day, and about 10 to 15 minutes on the third day. And you have the most amazing bread. What is very unique about this particular bread is it's a yogurt ferment. Sourdough is a tricky thing. It's sometimes touch and go. It can be successful and it can't. But they found that using a yogurt sourdough base does have about 100% success rate. And this was developed in at UC Davis. I have the names of the people here because I want to give credit to the people who did the work. And it says here that they found that yogurt was a dependable starter 100% of the time. And that was in 1973. And this was done by Candace Reeves and George York at the UC Davis, I guess whatever department they were in, ferment department, but just kidding. Anyway, and places like Boudin Bakery, they've been around since 1849. And of course, you know, the Acme Bread Company in Berkeley has been around for a lot of times. It's very, very famous for their sourdough starters. Those are not yogurt-based sourdough starters. So when you take it to your home, it needs to readjust, and sometimes it dies because it doesn't get what it needs or doesn't get what it's used to. But if you use this yogurt-based sourdough starter, you will have success all the time. Basically, all you need is a cup of non-fat or low-fat milk, 2 tablespoons of plain yogurt. You have to make sure that it's a live culture and not a gelatin, and then it doesn't have any gelatin in it, and 1 cup of all-purpose flour. You take those 3 ingredients and you heat the milk up to between 90 to 100 degrees. You remove from the heat, you add the yogurt, and you mix it up and you let it sit for about 12 to 24 hours. And it will thicken, it'll possibly curd, that's not a bad thing. And it will get, if you look at the picture of my sourdough starter, you can see that there's like a layer of clear liquid on the top. You actually want that, okay? That clear liquid is actually telling you something that's happening in the milk. And let me tell you what it is, because I want to read it to you. It says, after 2 days, the clear liquid may form on the top. This shows that there is a high acid level and that it's starting to break down the milk protein. And the high acid level is what gives the flour a slightly sour taste. But it also means that there are a lot of probiotic or fermented biotics, nutrients, microorganisms that are going to go into your system and balance your gut and balance your digestion. It says here, now there was a time frame that I wanted to catch here. Okay, and if you want to go ahead and increase this so that you can share with others, you can literally add up to 10 cups more of flour and 10 cups more of milk and let it sit for another 48 hours or so and increase that to a huge batch that you can share with others. And it will ferment to that, an equilibrium that is ready to use at that point. But in the meantime, that's what I have, okay? Can we go to the next slide, please?
Amalia, we have a question. If you were
Oh,
going
sure.
to provide resources for the jar lids? And are we going to email the recipes and the instructions? Or
Yes,
just
we
let
do
them know
have-
it's on the
Yeah.
website?
We do have a beautiful handout. It's like 3 or 4 pages long. I keep it next to my kitchen whenever I want to make the bread. It's like this. We're going to have, I guess we'll provide the link or we'll email the link to everyone for this bread recipe. It's wonderful. The taste is amazing. And once you get the hang of it, you're just doing it 5-10 minutes here, 5-10 minutes there, and it's done. And you have this amazing bread. I make it about once a week. I did something a little different this week. I usually just make one big loaf in a big Dutch oven. This time I did a little bit differently, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to try and share my screen so I can show you. I believe the next slide is a video.
Okay, hang on a second. I was putting it in the chat, the website where it is.
Yeah, that's great. But I want to
Okay.
also let people know exactly where that recipe is, because I was very hesitant to start this starter. I thought, 3 days, I'm not going to do that. Yogurt, I don't want to keep milk in my house. Oh, one thing I didn't mention yet, I don't keep milk in my house very often, but I get this. So I got myself some organic powdered milk, whole milk, powdered milk, and I use that of a ratio of 1 to 4, or I say 4 scoops of this to 1 cup of water when I want to make my sourdough. So I warm the water that I'm going to use for that powder. I warm it up to almost 100 degrees, between 90 to 100 degrees. And you can see here, I've got it up to 97.7 degrees. I've mixed in the milk powder. And this is what makes this system sustainable. Water, you're going to have or reserve. It's part of your prepping. But if you have this milk powder, you can make this bread no matter what the circumstances are. Your honey lasts forever on your shelf, a pinch of salt, water, and this powder and flour. And that's all you need for this recipe. Day one is you add the milk and you add the milk to your starter. And you can see I've got my milk powder. Oh, what happened? Go back.
Oh, I don't know what
Okay.
happened.
Okay, it's fine. I've got my milk mixed into the warm water, and I'm ready to just pour that into that jar. And then all I do is just shake it up and put it down. Okay, somebody was asking how many scoops. It'll tell you on the thing, and I have it on my label. This is how I've labeled it. 4 scoops. I don't know if you can see that. 4 scoops equal 1 cup of water. So if I'm going to do a half cup of starter, I'm just going to replace with a half of a cup of milk and half a cup of flour. Now what I've done here is I've got my water and my milk powder in here, and I stirred it up. Then I added a half a cup of flour. I stir it up, and then I throw that into my jar, the jar of my starter, shake it up, and then leave it on the counter overnight. So that's day one. You just mix your milk, warm water, your flour, stir it, make sure it's like under 100 degrees and over 90, and then put it into your starter, shake your bottle, and leave it. Literally 5 minutes. Let's go to the next slide where I'm going to try and share a video with you.
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and play that one. Okay, so day 2 is when everything starts to happen. Now here's my starter. I fed it last night and let it sit, I guess almost 24 hours really at this point. So I'm just going to take it and blend it really well, because I'm going to be taking a cup out of it for my my bread dough, or my bread. I've taken out only about 4 cups of flour at this time. This is bread flour that's high gluten. Here I have some lukewarm water, a cup and 3/4. I'm going to play with 1 more cup of flour depending on how dry it is. I know I'm going to have to add a little bit, but I'm not sure how much. I'm going to take, we're going to take 1 tablespoon of sea salt. This is fine sea salt, so I'm definitely not going to use a whole tablespoon. Just because of the fineness of it, it's going to be too salty. And I'm going to use some 2 tablespoons of honey. That's really all that's involved. And when you see how little work there is involved in this, you're going to be so surprised. So let's go ahead and pour all 4 cups. Woo, mama. Of flour. Okay, and let's take a cup of the starter that's just been shaken up and
ready to go. Oh my God, it looks so bubbly and it smells sour. Not sour like rotten sour, but sour like fermented sour. I'm going to pour that in. Okay. I'm going to take, well, first I'll do the salt because my tablespoon's going to be a hot mess after I put the honey on it. I'm going to use maybe, because it's such fine salt, I'm going to use about a half a tablespoon, which is about 1.5 teaspoons. Now I'm going to take, this is a no fuss recipe. There's no like sifting or anything like that. And be generous with honey. It gives that wonderful sweet tang. So it's still got some honey in the spoon. It takes a minute or so for it to all come out. So I'm going to grab a little bit more, like maybe another half of a tablespoon, because the second one wasn't a full tablespoon. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of that honey. And baby, let me tell you, I'm probably going to lick that later because that's so wonderful. Maybe not. All right, anyway. Now I'm going to take my lukewarm water. Let me make sure it's still lukewarm. Not really. It's been sitting for a little bit, so I'm going to warm it up for, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 or 15 seconds. Not more than that. Delicious. Okay, good enough. Let me see. Nope. I put on 30 seconds the other day and it was so hot. I knew that it would was not a good idea. So now I've got it like 20 seconds. Let me see. Okay. I'm going to pour that in. And now I'm going to use my dough hook. And I'm going to let it mix for about 2 minutes. That's what it says. 2 minutes on low or on stir. And then I'm supposed to check it. Add a little bit more flour if I need to add more flour, just to make sure it's not a sticky dough. This should not be a sticky dough. It should form a nice ball. Maybe I'll take a little spatula and help it like push in. I thought it'd be helpful to record this in actual time because, you know, people talk about how long it takes, but you don't see mistakes, you don't see all those kinds of things. So let's take a minute or two to do it right. And I'm going to take another scoop. Now I'm going to play with that other 1 cup of flour. I'm going to take a 1/4 cup measuring cup. I'm going to grab a little bread flour. And I'm going to add. Now, you're not required to use bread flour. I think that I'm going to try and experiment with einkorn, spelt, and maybe some other flours that I really, really love. I mean, I've had spelt bread and I just thought it was a cat's meow. And einkorn I haven't tried yet. I'm really looking forward to that as well. Should be pretty interesting to try some of these grains. But what you need to be aware of is that if you do use almond flour, einkorn, other things, alternates, there is a different rate of absorbency for the flour. So you may end up using, I understand that einkorn, for example, does not absorb water as much as regular flour. So that you have to use maybe less water, more water, I don't know, you have to kind of play with it and see if you're going to use alternative flours, how the consistency goes. So it's important to be able to see what kind of consistency I'm going to get here. And my goal is to have the dough form a ball and kind of clump around the hook. That would be ideal. So let's see if we can get that to happen. I'll just wipe this off so I can seal it without too much crumbling happening later on. This is kind of a messy business. I'm going to go ahead actually while I'm waiting and keep this back in the refrigerator. So definitely I need more flour. So I've already done 1/4 cup. It's still looking pretty liquid. And this is going to be different for you, even in your own home, different seasons, different humidity, different temperatures. I think that's what's the beauty of cooking, home cooking yourself, is you get a sense of it being yours. You make it your own family recipe, the own flavors that you have. And you'll find that even your ferments, the ones that you keep in your home long term, will be very distinctive, even from somebody who's just a couple of miles away or in the same town. And the reason being is that I'm going to go for a 1/4 cup. And the reason being is that every kitchen has different environmental conditions, whether it's the heat. This is a hot kitchen. It's on the northwest side. It always gets the late afternoon sun. So it's a hot kitchen, especially in the afternoon. I have to be really careful with my ferments. This is, this had really old cabinetry in it from 40 years ago. So if the cabinets are that old, you might be dealing with a lot of different kind of bacteria and things that have been sitting around for a long time. Okay, now I see it's starting to pull away a little bit from the walls. I'm going to shut it down and pull it back a little and see if I can't get it to blend. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to use too much flour, because if you put too much flour in it, it turns into like a hockey puck. It's so hard. And you see this dough is way too sticky. So I still have 1/4 cup to play with the portions that I've taken out. And let's see how that comes out. If I just mix it for another minute, add a little bit more. And I don't want to use much more than 1/4 cup, because I'm going to have to use a little bit for dusting. So let me just take, I don't know, a little bit less than 1/4 cup. And see how much I have to add in to get it to pull away from the wall and become a ball. It's looking a little bit better. It's spitting back at me a bit. So I keep thinking about it. It's still not coming across away. It's still pretty sticky, which is a little disappointing. So I want it to work really well in front of you. Before it worked really great, but now that I'm doing a video of it, it's not. And again, it could be just because the kitchen circumstances are different tonight than usual. It's really hot today. It's over 100 degrees. So, and it's still over 90 outside tonight. Or in the high 80s, I'm not sure. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to play with this a little bit off camera, and I'll let you know what I needed to do in order to get this to become less sticky and more of a ball.
Okay.
Definitely need more flour.
Yeah, wait. Now, this is the value of doing things, of mistakes, learning from mistakes, because the next video, I realized what my mistake is. Did anybody catch what the mistake was? Janice, you must have caught it, no?
Yeah, dry flour, milk, the milk,
No. It's okay.
powdered milk,
No, not at
too
all.
much water.
No. Give me a second. How do I, okay, let me stop this share and start a new share. And I'll show you the next video. It was so funny.
One of the questions were, did you see the questions?
I don't see them, no. Go ahead and
If you
ask
don't
me.
have a machine, can you just do it by hand?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do it because of my arthritis, but it just takes like about 5 minutes of kneading and getting it all blended. It's not hard to do. You can do it in a bowl. You don't even need to really you don't need to have it on the table. This is not a kneading bread. This bread does not need kneading, just a good mix here and there every once in a while.
So is
Okay.
honey required?
I love the honey. It's not, nothing's required, I guess, but it is part of the recipe. It does recommend the honey.
Can you use whole wheat flour?
You can use any kind of flour. Just make sure you have the right consistency, which is
And-
why I did this video, to make sure that there's a good consistency so you can see that.
Does our recipe have measurements in grams?
Oh, I don't think so. No, it does not. Yeah. Yeah, it does not have measurements of bands.
So that you start with so much flour, and you don't want to add too much flour. Just add a little bit at a time until it's the right consistency. You don't want to just follow a recipe for bread, like for cakes, like you would for bread. For the bread, you want to just do a little at a time.
Okay, I believe that this is the the explanation why I'm makdakt. So let's see. Do you see the video?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it really didn't take me but a minute to figure out what my mistake was. I guess on camera you get a little nervous and you're not thinking clearly, but off camera, as soon as I shut it off, I realized, hey, I just put 4 cups of flour in. It's 5 to 6 cups of flour for this bread, not 4 to 5 cups of flour. So now I'm adding the 2nd quarter cup here, so it's a total right now of 5.5 cups of flour. And again, I try to reserve as much as I can of that last cup for dusting, because I have done it with a full 6 cups, just starting off like that, and it was really, really like a hockey puck. All right, now it's starting to form a ball up against here. Just gonna pull it away from the wall a little bit, just to make sure it's blending well. See, it's pretty good. It's holding its shape pretty well. I'm just gonna maybe dust a little bit more to get that separation that I want from the wall and that more solid. Let's see, how much should I put in? Maybe 1/8 of a cup, and see if that makes a difference. I think it is important to share with you this process. It's kind of like all of these things I'm saying are going in my mind when I'm looking at it. I'm seeing it's pulling away, and I've got a little bit sticky in the center here. So I need to add this a little bit more. So right now I've got 5 3/4 cups of flour in here. And it's been mixing for about 4 minutes altogether, which is about the right amount of time. It looks like a solid ball now. It's pretty much pulled away. Mostly, there's a little bit of like left, mostly pulled away from the wall. And I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to put it into an oiled bowl. Here's my bowl. I'm going to take a little olive oil. There we go. I know that seems like a lot. Maybe it is, but you turn it like for the whole day and the whole night, and it sits in here. So I'm going to pull it up to the top because it's going to rise. It doesn't rise a lot, but it rises plenty. And we're going to have it rise 3 times. So give me a minute or so. I'll see if I can get this form a ball and put it in that oiled bowl.
Okay, so as you can see, the entire time, these 2 videos are a total of about 13 minutes. So it shows you that even with a mistake, even with me putzing around trying to figure out what was the mistake I made, I didn't spend 15 minutes doing this yet. So it's a very, very quick type of bread dough. Now I'm going to show you after I've got it in the bowl, what you do for the rest of the second day. Bear with me here. I'm going to go back to that red top bowl. Okay. I don't think that's the right one. Well, we'll try. We'll find out if that's the right one.
Well, if I were to be honest, I have to tell you, I feel like I've had a little bit of a wrestling match with this bread tonight, but I got the dough. I did have to add the full 6 cups of flour tonight. That's just what the bread wanted, so that's what the bread got. I have this beautifully oiled bowl, and I'm going to just do this. Turn it around a little bit and put it down. I'm going to place a cover over it. And I'm going to leave it for about an hour. The temperature should be warm, okay? Anywhere between, let's say, 78 degrees and 100, but not more than 100, because you're going to be dealing with, we're dealing with different kinds of bacteria. We want to encourage the positive bacteria and the beneficial bacteria, and discourage the bacteria that's not good for us. And so by keeping it within a certain temperature range, we encourage the ones we want and we discourage the ones we don't want. And right now it's going to sit here for an hour, and I'm going to come back and I'll show you what I do next.
I'm not sure if you guys understand this one thing, and this is something that took me a while to learn. When you're talking about bacteria and the conditions in your kitchen and all this kind of stuff, you're actually talking about bacteria in the air. Your sourdough is developing and sort of acquiring bacteria from the air around it. So what you have in your kitchen, the temperatures and everything, that's really what you're cultivating here. Somebody's asking about the oven light. What does that say, Janice? I can't read the whole message.
Your oven with just the light on is a great proofing box. Yes, I do that too.
Not in my oven.
Not in your oven because you have the wrong light bulb in there.
Maybe that's what it is. I use, and that could be happening to other people. I use the wrong, my oven has, I don't know, a whopping bulb in there. I put it underneath there somebody told me, oh, just let it sit out in your oven with the light on. I put it in my oven. When we woke up in the morning, the smell was like rancid in the kitchen. My son said, Mommy, what the heck are you doing in there? I said, I don't really know. Let's find out, okay?
Yeah, no, I do that with mine, or I stick it underneath the microwave light.
Okay, that's the wrong, sorry, I picked the wrong one. Let's see here. Okay, let's share this one now.
Okay, an hour has passed, so let's take a look at our dough. It's a little puffy. It's kind of greasy, actually, to be honest with you. Oh, my mistake. I should first get the flour on the table here, on the surface. I'm going to put it on a lightly floured surface. Okay, spread that out a little. Take the bread out. You're supposed to knead it for a couple of minutes until it's not so sticky. This is kind of heavily flawed. I'm going to push some of this aside, use the rest of it later. God, I know when we think about kneading, we think about, oh my God, who wants to knead bread? But there's something about the texture of this that is really so fun. It reminds me of maybe like those sensations that you like when you're a baby or something. It's very sensuous, actually, I think. Feels really good. So you're just supposed to knead it, to be honest with you, I don't really need it 5 minutes. I need maybe a minute or so. As long as it feels good. And I have arthritis in my hands and my fingers, so I'm not looking to be like a professional where they slide and pull back, slide and pull back. Okay, it's not sticky. That's what it said, to roll it until it's not sticky. It's not sticky. It's holding its shape really nicely. That's it. What was that? Like a minute or two? Let's go ahead and put it back into the oiled bowl. And leave it for another hour. Let it rise again. Ooh la la. Just love the way it looks and feels. So let me just go ahead and cover it one more time, right back up. Leave this surface because we're actually going to come back 2 more times to do this. Now I'm not going to videotape that because that's pretty much like redundant, but we're going to do this 2 more times, and then I'm going to put it overnight in the refrigerator. And that's all there is to do on the 2nd day. Mix it, knead it, put it in an oiled bowl, let it sit for an hour, take it out, do exactly what I did just now, put it back, let it sit for an hour, take it back out, do it again, take it back and put it in here again, cover it, sit for an hour, and a 3rd time knead it lightly, and then put it back in the bowl and let it sit for a 3rd hour. And then it goes in the refrigerator overnight.
Any questions about that? I know that this video has made it seem very complicated, but it really isn't. It's a very easy peasy thing to do. Let's see. And then I want to show you what it looks like the next morning. Actually, I'm sorry. I think that's in the, let me cancel that. That's in, I'm going to unshare now. And Janice, you can go to if you go to the presentation, I'll show you pictures of what it looks like the next day. Okay, so we did that day 2 video. That's what it looked like after I finished it, after it was rising for 3 hours. So it doesn't really rise a lot. It just needs to be sort of, I don't know, schmoozed or something so that it's ready, but that's before I go into the refrigerator. Now let's look at the next slide. And that's how it looked the next morning. It literally was stuck to the lid and it was pushing the lid up. So it could have maybe risen a little bit more, but it looks about 3 times what it was the night before. And maybe it could have risen up to 4 times what it was the night before. And go ahead to the next slide. Now, when you take it out the next day, you do the same thing. You just roll it on that lightly dusted surface. You let it sit for 15 minutes. You come back and you put it into the pans that you want. Traditionally, I've been using a big cast iron Dutch oven because it cooks so evenly. But today I thought to take a risk because I really wanted something very different. So I went ahead and made these little individual loaves and a couple of bigger loaves. And that's what it looked like when I just put it into each one of them. I don't use butter or oil on the bottom of the pans. I found that it sticks. It's not necessary. I just use a little strip of parchment paper so I can lift it out. And if you could go ahead to the next slide.
That was the next slide.
Oh, there's a slide missing. Okay. What you're missing is the way it puffed up after 3 hours. They were literally overflowing in each of the pans. And I'm going to actually show you now. One of the breads I cut open and I put a bunch of cheese in it. And I had that for lunch, so you're not going to see that one. But I'm going to switch over to the other camera and show you what the breads look like once they were done. So bear with me.
So did you cut the tops of them?
I did not.
Oh,
I only cut the top. Yeah, you can, but I didn't. And I haven't in the past either. Oh, maybe I did in the big pan. Again, you have to understand something. It says to cook this at 450 degrees for about 40 to 45 minutes. Now, if you're going to do what I did, those small little breads are done between 20 and 25 minutes. And the bigger breads are done literally in 30, 35 minutes. So I had to reduce the temperature because it was too hot for uncovered breads. So you can follow the instructions. And then as you want to make changes in your bread, you can go ahead and finesse it like I did. And so now I have a bunch of smaller loaves. I can open them up and I can, let me show you this one here. So I have these small little loaves. This is how it came out of the oven, this one. I don't know if you can see it well enough. And basically, this is how easy it is. I have not touched this since it came out of the oven. It's that easy to take out of the pan with no butter and no oil. Remember, this already had plenty of oil in it. I actually cut this open and made a sandwich with it. Or you can cut it this way and make a sandwich, but I had a special thing that I wanted to make. I made that tuna with the pickled jicama. So, and I had it, the bread that I used, I stuffed a whole bunch of cheese in the middle. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. And then let me show you the other bread. Give me a second, I have to reach around. Here's the other one. Let me make sure you can hear me so the mic is near my mouth. This one is also the other bread. I haven't pulled it out. Let's see how it pulls out from the, sorry. Let's see how it pulls out. Oh, this one is stuck. This one is stuck on the side. So live and learn. Yeah, that one's gonna have to be pulled aside. They're cooled, so they should have come out a little easier, but this one is still stuck. Oh, there it goes. Comes right off. Does that look beautiful? And it's not hard. It's sensuously soft. Isn't that lovely? The crust on the top is a little bit hard. You can hear it. Oh, my mic is here. You can hear it, but I love soft bread. So that works out for me perfectly. It's gonna have a little tang from being a fermented bread or a sourdough bread. And it's gonna have a sort of like a underbite of sweetness from the honey. And because of the salt, it will have just a wonderful opens up all the flavors and makes it more tasty. So that's it. That's as far as that goes. So those are basically the 3 techniques that I wanted to go over today. What makes them sustainable is by having that powdered milk and by having that, what do you call it? The sourdough starter in your refrigerator, and you just need flour and a couple of ingredients. As long as you have them in the quantities that you need for the bread making that you make, you can have easily 6 months supply in your house, because you have to remember flour's shelf life, if you're not taking out the oxygen and putting an oxygen absorber in it, is about 6 months. You're going to start going sour because of the oils in the flour. If you use an oxygen absorber, you suck out, you want to use one of those food things, the vacuums that take out the air from the jar, then you could probably extend it to 9 to 12 months. But as you use like a couple months worth of flour, go and buy yourself some more so that you always have that 6-month window available for you at your home. And I think we talked before about how you can manage your amounts, how you draw up a recipe and then multiply it by the number of times you use in a week, and then multiply that by, if it's 6 months, you want 6 months worth. So I think it's like what, 26 weeks or 26 times. And then you have your complete recipe for whatever you need for 6 months. If you want to see that video, that's up on my YouTube channel. It's called Outings for Old Ladies Who Aren't Dead Yet. And I just happened to upload it because some people asked me how to access it. And I didn't have any videos up there anyway. I just kind of made that YouTube channel years ago. And I thought, I'll put up there. Anybody who wants to see it can see it. This will also be edited over the next week or so and be uploaded to that channel. So, and I'll edit like the parts where we were messing up with the tech stuff. And so it'll be a little bit smoother. My suggestion is put it at 1.25 speed, because I talk a little slow. So that makes it go a little bit faster, almost like a conversation. Any questions? Because we're past the time. But
there's a question asking if you've ever baked it over a campfire, but I guess with the Dutch oven, you could do that over the campfire.
So when you use a Dutch oven in a campfire, you need to use the coals on the top and the bottom because you want the Dutch oven to get evenly hot. Yes, cast iron does heat well evenly, but not to the point where you can just heat it from the bottom and the top. So when you do any kind of breads, cornbread, this bread, any kind of bread, biscuits, you want to take your ashes or your charcoal or whatever you're heating with, and you want to put it on top as well, and manage as much of an even heat as you can. You can do anything over a campfire as long as you know how to manage the heat.
I also put the sourdough starter recipe in the chat.
Wonderful, because this, I'm going to tell you, it's so delicious. It reminds me of something. I don't know if there was like great bread when I was a kid or whatever it was, but it's really, I love this recipe. I'm so glad that I tried it, even though I was really reluctant. But when I saw that this sourdough gives you, because it's a yogurt base, gives you like 100% reliability, and that, you can sustain it with a little bit of powdered milk powder. No, I thought, okay, let me try it and see if it works. And it did. It works well.
Did you want to share the flour recipe that you equal flour?
Wait, say that again?
The bread, the sourdough starter with just flour and water.
Oh, I just kind of, it's in this. Okay, if you want to know how to make your own sourdough from scratch, it's in this packet. So it will tell you, this is very comprehensive. Okay. This has all the information. So yeah. So if you want to go ahead and start your own, I guess it was just a little yogurt.
No, it's that you didn't have good luck with just flour and water sourdough starter. So that's what I was trying to get out.
I don't know if it's this kitchen or what, but every ferment I've made since I moved into this house about 1 year and 2 months ago has been a total failure. Everything's gone sour.
You want to put your YouTube channel in the chat?
Oh, sure.
I don't know it.
Let's see. How can I, here we go, chat. Yeah. And there's just that one video, really. There we go. That's the name of it. Outings for Old Ladies Who Aren't Dead Yet.
So does anybody have any questions on any master food preserver or master gardener questions that they'd like to know? You'd like to ask? You can unmute now if you'd like.
Where do we get that packet you just held up?
Okay, you're talking about,
I
are you
just
talking about the
downloaded
seed
it.
packet?
No.
Oh,
recipe
oh,
packet.
this, yes. This is on the UCA in our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's on the chat,
But
too.
in the chat, there's the exact address for it. So if you go to that red kind of swirly thing, you'll see
Right.
it's right there from Janice.
And then
Because-
where do we get the microgreen seeds?
So I'm not supposed to promote anything, any particular brand or anything like that. So I do want to just make a disclaimer there. I'm not allowed to as a certified master food preserver or master gardener. We don't. But what I want you to do is I want you to go online and I want you to look up seeds for microgreens. Okay. And
Right.
put organic seeds for microgreens, because if you're looking for nutrition, you want the best product. Start with the best product and you will get the best results and the best benefits. And then look for bulk. You should put the word bulk in. So it should be organic seeds for microgreens, and put in bulk. So you can buy it by a pound or 4 pounds. I don't want to buy more than a pound because sometimes I just don't feel like growing microgreens. So I might go for a couple of months without it anywhere in the house. And then I'll say, oh, and I don't want it sitting on my shelves for months. I want it as fresh as possible. Now, this is what's great about this product. I'm not going to tell you the company because I'm not allowed to. But this product says the germination rate, they tested it on April 1st, 2020, and they had an 85% germination rate. Purity, it tells me about purity, 99.00% purity. It tells me if there's any other ingredients. It says inert colon 1.00%. So there's less than 1% or about 1% of inert products, whatever that might be. And it says there are no weeds in it. There are no hot seeds, no noxious weeds, no other crops in it. And that's what a really good company will give you. They'll give you all of that information. I wish I could say the name of this company because they're really great. But anyway,
You
yeah.
can say the name, but you're not
I'm not promoting it. Okay, fine.
promoting it.
This company, Mountain Valley Seed, gives you that information on the packets. So you can buy with confidence. That's the information you want from anybody. So if you go to a different company and buy it, see if they offer you that information, because that's the information that's really going to let you know you're getting a high quality product that's tested and the people take pride in the qualities of the product. So in this particular company, they do that. So that's something that I really, and I buy, when you go into a bigger amount, you get it cheaper. So I buy 1 pound packets. And I've had these packets for several months, I think 7 or 8 months. So I haven't been doing a lot of microgreens, probably, but because the gnats were bothering me. But now that I put them outside on that rack, they don't bother me at all. They're no gnats. I mean, there are a couple because I have a lot of plants, but that was a bothersome. So keep that in mind, that you should institute that water, sweet water, vinegar, dish soap right away,
Right.
and so that you just nip them in the bud.
So
So
do
they
the
wanna-
microgreens actually ever flower where you could collect the seeds?
Okay, that would be a sunflower. You have to have a giant plant that gives you a big thing. I actually had 2 of them volunteer themselves in my backyard. I don't know if it was like some sort of like spiritual thing or whatever. And I thought, wow, that's really great. If I did that a couple of times and just let the seeds drop and see what flowers come up, I could maybe do my own completely sustainable cycle of microgreens. You know, just by having 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever small. But no, you want to eat them when they're like this. So these are their baby leaves or their
Right.
first leaves. I think they're not true leaves. I don't know what they're called. True leaves, not true leaves. But this is where,
Cotyledons.
yeah. So what happens in food is you can take a quinoa seed and eat it, and there's like goes right through your body. There are beans. You can take a hard bean or a hard seed, you can swallow it, and you get no benefit from it at all. It just goes right through your body, comes right out the same way. When you sprout something, the seed, the hardness, the shell breaks off, opens up, and dissipates. It goes away. And what you have now is access to the nutrients inside the seed or inside the grain. So all of a sudden you have all the nutrients accessible to you. And it's like a wonderful process. So right here, you've got like the whole sunflower and all its potential. And when you eat it up, you've got all that. That's why they say it's got like 30 times the nutritional value of what a regular sunflower would have. So this is
Right.
the stage at which you want to eat it.
I Googled the Mountain Valley Seed Company,
Mhm.
and now it's got a new name, True Leaf
True Leaf.
Naturals,
Yes.
True Leaf
that's true.
Market. So
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Because I bought these like last year. Yeah. And they still have, and if you look, those are a year and a half old seeds, and you saw how they grew. So
Right.
if you're just renewing them every 6 months or every quarter, every 3 months, you're going to have I mean, I don't think there was any seed that didn't come, but it's just a really good quality product.
Right. That bread was amazing. I'm the one that asked if you had measurements in grams because I bake a lot of sourdough bread, and it's very exact. You
Yes.
really, and you get a much better result if you can actually if you weigh your ingredients.
I agree.
So
I
I do
agree.
like 350 grams of the bread flour, a very high hydration flour. It requires a lot of water. And then 50 grams of the whole wheat stone ground to get that whole wheat, texture into that bread. And then 302 grams of water.
So I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. Baking is a science. But if you're an old yenta like me, it's kind of like schlump, 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 put it together. Let's go. We got 50 million things. I raised 5 kids. I have no precision in anything I do. And I wanted to make this easy for people. I totally agree with you that if you understand baking is a very fine science. And yes, weights are the way you want to go if you want consistency, if you want it to come out the exact same. You're absolutely right. But lifestyles just sometimes don't offer that,
Right.
And I wanted people to see that I could just schlump it around. I can make a mistake. I can fix it, and all done in 15 minutes. It was not a hard thing to correct. But yes, if I were to show people though what you're talking about, they'd say, "Oh my God, I don't have that. Oh my God, I don't know how to do that."
Now
So
you
do
need
it
a
like
scale.
And if you notice, the dough was so mushy. The dough was greasy in my hands. And I'm sure people would think, oh, I messed this up. Oh my God, this doesn't look like dough. And it's just hanging down. But it worked. It worked beautifully, So you're absolutely right. But if you're not as precise or if you want flexibility, or if you don't want to have to think that hard about it,
Right.
You can still get a wonderful product.
Right. I'm
sometimes
excited to try it.
Yeah, but sometimes you do use less flour just depending on the temperature and the humidity in the air, because it can take anywhere from 5. Sometimes it's only 5 cups of flour that I
That's
use.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I was just shocked at how it took all six cups, because the
just
first time I made it
depends.
with 6 cups, it was like a rock. I was like, oh my God, because I didn't know. You were the one who told me to gradually add until it gets to the right consistency.
Right.
But I guess it was just so humid that night, and it was really hot, and the kitchen had gotten really hot. I mean, it was 85 degrees in here with the air conditioning on. And I was like, oh, because I have that thermometer that I just open up. That's a great thermometer, by the way. You
Yes,
just
I
open
love
it up
it.
and it tells me,
Yeah.
oh my God, no wonder you're schwitzing. It's 85 degrees in here, Take a break. Have a
Yeah,
soda.
the instant read thermometers are wonderful.
Yes. So Phil, Melody wants to tell you to feel free to overnight that loaf of bread to her, because you might not want to eat it since it's stuck to the pan.
Well, no, yeah, thank you,
So-
Melody. I appreciate that. It's very sweet.
So if you want the video sent to you after
This video,
yes.
I'm just going to put it up. I just give me a week, because I'm very, technology challenged, and it took me like 5 or 6 hours to do the other one. But I'm going to try my best to edit out all our mistakes, and I'll put it up on that YouTube channel, and then you can just look at it at your discretion. If you want to download it, I guess there's a way you can download it too, so that you have access to it. You have the link for the recipe itself here in the chat. You have ucanr.edu as a website for any questions. And you have us. You can email us anytime and ask us any questions. That's what we're here for. We do this because we love it. We do this because we want to share the excitement, the joy, in whether it's cooking or growing or eating. Best part. And, and just spreading that love. And we as a group, we just love each other. Janice is like my best friend. I love you, Janice. And we just want to share that with everybody. We do this because we love it.
So
Shana
Solano,
Tova. Shana Tova. Shana Tova to melody. Yes, Shana Tova. Oh, there's 2 melodies. Okay. Yeah. All right, everybody.
Did you get, did you
yes.
get,
Very informative.
did
You're
you get,
very kind.
were there 3 things? Was there something besides bread and sourdough bread and sprouting that you did? Because I came in.
No, those were actually videos where I started to do my first trips, and I had put some videos up for my kids to see, like my new adventures in life. And then I made them private so that people couldn't see them. And so now the only public one is that first one. I do have a session 1, session 2 that I haven't had the chance to edit and put up. All 5 will be up there. But as I do this again, maybe next year, or as I do these 5 sessions and I get more refined, because this is the first time I've ever done these things, so please bear with me, I'm not very experienced. But as I refine them and have better demonstrations, better videos, I'll replace them so that it will become a much nicer and a better flowing kind of presentation for you guys.
What does SYMFP mean?
SY?
SY.
oh, Solano YOLO, Master
Oh.
Food Preserver.
Yeah, there's 2 different counties.
Solano and YOLO. That's me. Oh.
And I didn't mention that Diana is one of my best friends too, and I love her too. And I'm sure Pearl is here, because Pearl would not disappoint me and not show up for my presentation. And
Pearl
I
is
adore her
here.
too. Yeah.
Pearl is here.
Yeah.
Yes, you're muted, Diana.
I said Pearl is here.
Okay.
Yes,
Love you, Pearl.
my daughter is on too.
Oh, love you, Stephanie.
I saw that.
And her mother and father-in-law. I'm looking
All
at
right,
meeting
family
right now.
affair. Thank you for supporting me here. Thank you, family affair. Keep it in the family.
I don't think he knows he's on video though.
That's okay. Oh yeah, he
Okay.
does. He's waving.
All righty, I'm
Okay.
gonna stop the recording.
All right.
And
Thank you.
all righty.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good
Thank you.
night.
God bless you. God bless you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.